This episode of the podcast is brought to you by patreon.com/lightscameranonsense. Visit patreon.com/lightscameranonsense to help support your favorite new movie podcast. Now, let's roll that reel.
Recording now.
Recording now.
Recording now. Recording now. We are recording. Recording. Professionals. We are professionals. We've been doing this for how long, Zach?
Your mom.
Good answer, child. Wow. Wow. Zach, I personally have just lost a lot of respect for you.
Nice.
Is that a constant daily goal?
Yes. I'm striving to reach Sub-Zero, as it were.
Oh, hey. Mortal Kombat reference.
Couple of weeks too early, but yeah.
Yeah. I'm still sad that they delayed it a week, but I think actually I've been looking, and like every single movie that had a set release date for this year that hasn't already been delayed are now subtly just making like the tiny touches, like moving it back 1 week or moving it forward.
Yeah, we're in the part of the pandemic where we're like close to everybody kind of getting vaccinated and starting back the road to some sort of normalcy. So all the studios are like, well, we don't want to delay it like another year like we did at the beginning of the pandemic. So let's just like one more week.
Just push back a little. We can make some wiggle room between our different properties. And it's funny because we'll talk about it, but it's like one studio is doing it in particular.
Yes, yeah.
And it's the studio that had an infrastructure already for this year.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of funny.
It is. It's definitely humorous outcome of everything.
I know. It's just kind of funny to see it's not even behind the scenes. It's people like just being careful when they don't have to be. Like they have a backup. It's like
talking about the studios being careful?
Yeah, like having two parachutes, but then like just in case they're gonna land in water. You know,
when you're talking about parachutes. The only parachutes that they're concerned about are the golden parachutes.
Hey-o. Is that a reference?
It's like a business term, generally for like execs and board members and stuff like that. Where it's kind of like a get out of jail free card, where you still get back your investment. You basically don't end up losing any money.
Gotcha. I thought it was like a piss thing.
Or sometimes it's used in the context of like criminal activity too for business people, where they're like, yeah, you've been what's the term? Not money laundering, but
investing,
like skimming off the top.
Yeah. Getting that cream.
We're gonna let you get out of it this time, you little scamp.
You little board member, you with your stocks invested into the company.
I can't wait for someone to be like, no, Zach, that's completely wrong.
You're so wrong.
Talking out your ass.
Golden parachutes really is a piss thing. It's like when you have somebody piss on you, but you have a tiny umbrella covering the top of your head.
Yeah, something like that.
Perfect. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Lights, Camera, Nonsense, where we give you all the latest movie magic you may have missed. I'm Nick, giant lizard, giant monkey.
Are you fucking kidding me?
We can redo it.
My middle name literally has giant lizard in it.
We can start from the top.
No. Keep this. This is good.
Simmons.
Yeah. Wow, that's a really long name. Also, the fact that if you ever need to tell someone your middle name, I have to be there for all that.
Exactly.
And I'm Zach Smith. Or fuck. Just roll the goddamn tape. Just roll. Do it live.
Perfect.
Zach Lizard Simp Smith.
Oh, gross.
But see, now it just sounds like I'm really into normal lizards.
Yeah. Just like anytime you go to like what are they called? Terrariums or whatever, like at the zoo, and you're like getting really aroused watching the iguanas like just lay there.
It's canon now. I can't take it back.
It's true. And on April 3rd, 2021, let's roll into the previews. But before we do that, make sure that if you like supporting the show, that you can visit us at patreon.com/lightscameranonsense and donate as low as $1 and get the episode a day early. That's the YouTube version. If you want to get the audio version, you're going to get it same day as when we record. However, if you don't want to support us, we totally understand. You can also just visit us at lightscameranonsense.com, where you can watch us on YouTube and support us there. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe, do all the things that you normally do to support any other podcasts that you follow. But let's move on. Zach, what have you been watching?
First off, Nick, I can't help but notice that you're not here anymore.
I
left me.
I absolutely hated the smell of your place. No, wait. No, it's fine. We were having a bit of a couple of audio issues with me being there. I'm just too damn loud, and you have not enough carpet.
Well, you're literally like a god, right? Like your voice is just booming. All the time.
It was ethereal. The voice was like,
you're like
transcending.
That preset. Yes, exactly. You're like that preset on like Casio keyboards.
Yeah.
That makes no, like, why would you wouldn't ever use it for like normal composition, but yes, it's like this is how I play the piano too.
Yes, with like just like learning how to type in the keyboard and everything.
Exactly.
Hi, my name is
But yes, so just some audio issues, so we figured until the no carpet thing is resolved, we'll just stick to this for a minute.
Rip up the floorboards.
Oh yeah, that's totally easy to do in an apartment
and not breaking a lease whatsoever.
Yes, yeah. But back to your original question, what did I watch? I watched two things of consequence. The first being, of course, I watched episode 3 of Falcon and the Winter Soldier.
Nice, me too. I think everybody did.
Yeah. I mean,
it's the new big show. Like Disney Plus, I think, is the forerunner of creating the new hit show because they have so many intellectual properties that people want to watch. I mean, whether it was nostalgia when it first came out, but now that they've had The Mandalorian and now WandaVision and now Falcon and Winter Soldier, it's just like the MCU, the Star Wars universe. Whenever we're getting a new iteration for that.
I mean, Bad Batch is dropping on May 4th, which is a little bit more niche, but it'll certainly have a draw.
That's true. I forgot that it was so soon.
I think after that it's Loki, and then Ahsoka, I think.
Yeah. So they're it's kind of like trading off too with the fandoms. Yeah,
and when we were still doing news, we would talk about this quite a bit, and how like obviously that seems to be their strategy, is making it so you can never ever cancel your sub no matter what.
Just do it at least once a month, one good show a month.
Yeah, but yeah, so episode 3 of Falcon and the Winter Soldier, fantastic. Very quickly turning into just an all-star, like nearly perfect show. I can't really find any sort of fault with it quite yet, other than just like little nagging points. Like I had mentioned, the some of the CG looks a little iffy sometimes. At least it did in the first episode. I haven't really run into that since. It was specifically that opening Falcon scene where he was
very CGI heavy scene.
Yeah. But ever since then, it's not to, no pun intended, but it's been very grounded. So yeah, a lot of character building, a lot of conversation stuff, but then balanced with some good action set pieces. Especially with this last one, we had quite a few like fist fights, gun fights. Pretty much anything.
There's always one great action set piece on Birdman and Punch Guy,
yes.
And I think that it always ties in between the dynamic of all of the talking scenes that build up to that scene, and then have that fight scene be a way to push the story forward in a very grounded way, just like you said.
Yeah, absolutely. And this point might come up in my second topic, but the shots fired. The contextualizing of why should you care about any of this action going on is, I think, really important for things, TV shows especially, that rely heavily at least on one action set piece per episode. Because eventually, if it's just action, 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 you're just gonna end up not caring. It's gonna be like filler almost, just something to occupy your time, which is fine. If that's what you're working towards. But with Falcon and the Winter Soldier, it very much places it's very much placed in the camp of contextualize first, so that you actually give a shit about anyone who's getting shot at, anyone who's flying through a car window, that kind of thing.
And always introducing at least either a new character or a pre-established character in this universe. And it's pretty interesting seeing how they're going with each episode. They're really not standing still, which considering the fact that it's only 6 episodes, leads me to believe that it's going to end up being one of the better paced Marvel things, really, of ever. I know a lot of people, myself, I think occasionally included, were pretty glib about like, oh, it's wing guy and punch guy. It's just going to be very action heavy, but now I feel like an asshole. Saying that earlier.
Yeah, I did. I think we were doing it a very grave disservice, judging it obviously before it dropped, because what it's actually turned out to is basically Winter Soldier 2, which is fan-fucking-tastic. You got more Baron Zemo, Sharon Carter showed up.
We've got references to the comics. We've got
Madripoor showed up, of all things, which, if you're familiar with that place at all, is kind of like, that's got everybody like, oh,
it's
Wolverine,
an X-Men reference.
It's Wolverine, which it is, but cool your jets.
Yeah.
It's probably not happening anytime soon.
Cool your jets, guy.
But it's still really cool to see, like that kind of inclusion is really nice, including, you've got like twists on things, even Carly in this, the Flag Smashers, kind of like
I have questions about her character, not as like from her comic origins, but I mean, like, I have questions about her like morality when it comes to, should I even care about her? Because we have a lot of conversations about her motivations and why she's doing what she's doing, and she has those moments and you're like, oh, okay, maybe we can actually grow to understand where she's coming from. And because the Flag Smashers, at least in this show, are established as people who want to go back to a world that they grew accustomed to, which was during the blip. However, she then goes and blows up an entire building of innocent people.
With people in it.
Yeah. And then the guy's
that's like... That's when you get into the, their gray area, right? Because from their perspective, they're not innocent. Like, they think they're hoarding supplies. Now, whether or not that's true, we're not really given the context. It's just said like, you had enough supplies in here to feed people for like 6 weeks or something like that.
Right.
But as anyone who's worked in humanitarian services knows, there's a reason why you wouldn't just unleash all food at once in situations of like
deep famine or poverty.
So maybe we'll get a little bit more answers. I think those questions you're having are definitely on purpose, whether or not like the lengths they're going to, is it understandable, at least maybe not defensible, but understandable. Like, what pushes a person this far to blow up a building with people still inside, that kind of thing, regardless of motivations or whatnot. So yeah, very, and like I said, very Winter Soldier-esque, those types of questions. When is a deep state surveillance okay? When is it? Like, at what point are your top officials not working for you? They're working against you. So
it definitely leans more into government paranoia, a la Winter Soldier and Civil War, and the extensions that governments either go to or should go to when it comes to dealing with matters that happen overseas, or even when it comes to humanitarian efforts. Like
Right.
we're getting that with the John Walker storyline and how far he's willing to go to get the things that he wants, and whether he's getting the things that he wants because that's his job, or it's because he wants
But he
them, like the
actually wants
super
them,
like the super soldier serum, and how people are kind of hinting at him possibly having ulterior motives.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, yeah, very, very fun and interesting things they're doing. And still seemingly a lot more down the pipe just within the latter 3 episodes. So,
Mhm.
yeah, still very much enjoying that. Very much looking forward to
Love the
continuing.
design of Madripoor too.
Oh, yeah. So, like neon soaked, you have low town and high town.
Yeah, very
Um,
cyberpunk looking.
yeah. Yeah. So that was that. Did you have anything else to add?
I was just sprinkling in my stuff while you were talking. Sorry.
No, you're good. You're good. Other than that, the only other thing I watched was Godzilla versus Kong.
Okay, we're gonna go into it. All right.
Yeah. All right. Well, do you have anything that leads into this? Did you
Yes, I rewatched the entire MonsterVerse, sir. I watched Godzilla 2014. I watched Kong Skull Island. I watched Godzilla King of Monsters. All leading up into this.
uh, what is your
Ranking?
consensus, or not? I guess you can give your ranking too if you want, but I was just wondering what your consensus is now that there's been time since everything else has been released, and you can kind of go into it knowing that it's supposed to be like this cohesive universe. What's your takeaway from the earlier movies?
So it's a cohesive universe in that
They say it is.
in that they say it is. Like the monsters exist in the same universe, but like the human characters don't. Unlike there are recurring characters. But at the same time, it almost seems like they could easily be detached, much like I assume the older Godzilla films, like the.
It depends. I think I've talked about it way back before. That the whole Godzilla timeline, so to speak, is a fucking wreck because some movies matter depending on which
era
arc you're even looking at. It's kind of like Legend of Zelda, and where like depending you want to go, they'll be like, oh well, in this timeline, these movies happened.
Yeah, so it's kind of hard to keep track unless
timelines.
you have like strings and like different movies to different strings. Yeah, so
you'll just have randomly Mothra 3 doesn't matter at all. Fuck that movie.
now you have to go watch Rodan, that movie. Even though that was supposed to be an entirely different franchise before they decided to rope him in. So context-wise, I could give you the ranking, but I want to kind of dive into Godzilla vs. Kong a little bit more before I definitively give that.
Sure.
Going back and watching the earlier films in this franchise, it gave me a lot of perspective when it came to Godzilla vs. Kong. Okay. Leading into it. There are hits and misses with every single one of them. There's obviously story issues with certain films, and there are consistency issues with other films. There's some character designs that character design choices that were sketchy at best, and then there are just like baffling why questions that you want to have answered that are never answered.
Yeah, I think it's absolutely fair to say there's not a perfect movie in the whole bunch.
No.
There's definitely at least 1 or 2 flaws, probably more like 3 flaws for each movie.
At least, if you want to go in and actually like find reasons to not be upset, but to like criticize it from a non-biased perspective, then it's very easy to do so. They're all obviously, there's no cohesive like direct storyline timeline that they were trying to go with. There's different director, different writers, or no, I'm sorry, there are similar writers for the most recent 3. Godzilla 2014 was the only film in the franchise that had different writers than the rest of the franchise. But
Skull Island was the same writer as King of Monsters?
Chris Terrio. No?
Nope. Michael Dougherty did King of Monsters and Godzilla versus Kong.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, then I'm just talking out of my ass. I don't know what I'm talking. Well,
Hey, we talked about it before. It's a great talent. It should be on Letterman if he was still doing that.
So I mean, so bringing that fact up, it's kind of baffling to see that there are some glaring inconsistencies with not necessarily the timeline, but with the universe itself, and how if you wanted to ground this franchise in the real world, if this actually happened, how fucked everything would be. By the end of like the first by the end of Godzilla 2014, there should have been drastic changes to the whole world.
And it's interesting, like as you said, because there's different creative teams on each of them, and like whether like those teams just kind of picked and chose what they were gonna roll with.
Yeah.
So like with Godzilla 2014, they were upfront about that. They were approaching that as a definitive, grounded approach to Godzilla. Wasn't going to be like crazy out there or action packed or anything.
And that was a big criticism of that movie, is that he's being portrayed more as a force of nature, which was their intention, and that's why he wasn't necessarily shown as much, because it was more of a retelling of his origin.
Right. The criticism ultimately was that they didn't show enough Godzilla. They still kind of do that they don't kind of do it. They do that thing, that force of nature thing in King of Monsters too. It's just kind of amalgamated with aliens and shit. And,
being underwater or being in a snowstorm in Antarctica or being, nighttime. It's just,
but I can't remember the director's name, but they had the director for Monsters for Gareth Edwards. Gareth
Edwards is Godzilla 2014.
Yeah, that's what it's saying.
Oh, okay. Sorry.
Sorry. No, that got a little confusing. Yeah, Michael Dougherty wrote and directed King of Monsters. Gareth Edwards directed Godzilla 2014.
And Jordan Vogt-Roberts did Skull Island.
Skull Island, yes. But Gareth Edwards, who was coming off the success of Monsters, which was, kind of a similar thing as 2014 Godzilla, it was just kind of like almost replicating that just with Godzilla.
Yeah.
So you went from that to Skull Island, which was, more of your typical, action fare, I would say. Just
I would say it's much more of a transition from Alien to Aliens as Godzilla 2014 to Kong Skull Island, in that it's much more action packed when it comes to, you have the military involved. It's a different time period. There's obviously some stylistic choices when it comes to cinematography as well.
Well, and you have the whole team aspect too, like a unit of soldiers and a weird, strange environment, and facing off insurmountable and violent foes, and it's basically aliens.
Yeah.
But you then go from that to King of Monsters, which is like, it's still very much action movie, but it's like the quintessential love letter to just Godzilla in general. So not only do you have that action, but it's interspersed with, some would say, very drawn out human aspects, where they're going underwater in a submarine for 40 minutes, and
you gotta have dramatic but sarcastic countdown guy. You have to have the big twist of who you think was a protagonist but is actually the quintessential antagonist.
A
lot of story tropes in there.
Well, so basically what I'm getting at is, and we'll get to Godzilla versus Kong eventually, I promise. Depending on what you like stylistically, one, there's definitely something in the MonsterVerse for you no matter what.
Right.
I think. Two, that's also going to mean people are going to have varying opinions on which one they think is better, or like which one does it the best. Which would explain some of the discourse that's happening right now around Godzilla versus Kong.
So, and the reason why we had that big old preamble just now about talking about all the other movies as opposed to Godzilla versus Kong is because it's all pertinent. It's
Yes.
all it's all important going into Godzilla versus Kong, having that perspective of watching these previous movies. A lot of people haven't. A lot of people probably maybe watched King of Monsters before this one, which is fine because you actually do need like just a bit of King of
A little
Monsters
bit, yeah.
leading into this.
It's
But
probably the most connected out of all of them.
yeah,
King of Monsters to Godzilla versus Kong.
well, I think definitely because they after Skull Island, they were writing it and they were figuring out the universe. Like I think Godzilla, it could stand on its own and it would be totally fine.
Right.
Kong Skull Island definitely leads into, especially with the post-credit scene, leads into Godzilla King of Monsters, and Godzilla King of Monsters leads into Godzilla versus Kong.
Right.
And in an interview with Godzilla versus Kong coming out now, Adam Wingard has kind of touched on the fact that the reason why there's no post-credit scene for Godzilla versus Kong, spoiler alert, is because this is essentially kind of a wrapping up of this chapter of the universe. So it's kind of the quote-unquote Avengers Endgame version of this.
Well, and quite frankly, he said whether or not there's more depends on the success of this one. So if there isn't more, then they wanted to end it in a way that was kind of, as you said, a wrapping up, if you will.
Looking at the 3-day total on Box Office Mojo right now, comparatively, over the course of 3 days, Godzilla King of Monsters made $47,776,000. 3 days of Godzilla vs. Kong, and this, bearing in mind, is also simultaneously released on HBO Max. So that is affecting this. But 3-day total for Godzilla vs. Kong is $27,900,000. They are probably not they're looking at that number while also looking at their HBO Max subscriptions and realizing, okay, we can start pushing movies back to certain dates so that they match with being part of a new month. Mortal Kombat obviously being pushed back so that they can have people who upped for HBO Max to watch Godzilla vs. Kong now have to re-up for next month so that they can see Mortal Kombat.
It's the same strategy we were literally just talking about for Disney Plus. It's not going to be surprising going forward when studios are like, this is the strategy we need to do because it's going to keep people subbed, and in a world where you're actively fighting against the two other subscriptions that people have along with Netflix.
Yeah. So a movie subscription a month is essentially a movie ticket a month. But leading into our actual reviews of Godzilla vs. Kong, Zach, what did you think?
Okay, so I want to preface this by saying
it's a good start.
I want to preface this by saying up front, I might come off as a little bit more harsh than what actively I think the general grade of the movie is. Like, if you're gonna, I hate grading on a 10-point scale, but if you were gonna ask me because that's what you had to know, I'd probably give it a solid 7. It is a fine, serviceable action movie with giant monsters, which is great. Some okay fight scenes for the most part, and a few chuckles, right? Like, what you're getting going in up front, just by the ads alone.
And the title.
Yes, you get the title, several times in the movie. So with all that being said, I'm very cold and kind of disappointed.
Okay, no, I was gonna come in a lot hotter on this. I did not like this movie.
That's fair.
We are both, I think, of the camp where because I remember walking out of the movie theater in 2014, back when that was possible and the world was a much different place. Walking out of the movie theater from Godzilla 2014, and we both loved it.
Yeah, it was great.
And we both loved it because... Sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to say, and obviously we've talked about it in this very episode, still has problems, like...
It's not perfect.
the human characters in that are utter garbage. Like it's just not worth it. Just throw them in the trash. But I think the things that it does do right in that, like its strategy of presenting its thesis, if you will, of Godzilla, I think it's really effective, and it's a different Godzilla movie. Um, so yeah, all that to say, I agree with you. Yes, we both enjoyed 2014 Godzilla.
So with that being said, the reason I did enjoy Godzilla 2014 is that it centered on the humans are not perfect, but the fact that it centered more on the humans and made them the driving force of getting the perspective about what everything is going on. The force of nature aspect that I mentioned earlier is what I loved about Godzilla 2014. It felt like the scale obviously worked perfectly for that movie, and the way that it was filmed. Gareth Edwards being a huge he's basically a skilled director when it comes to showing scale in his films.
Yeah, well, and he's also a proponent of the whole Jaws theorem, if you will, like the less is more sort of thing.
Exactly.
Which,
yeah.
of course, every budding film critic at the time was like, "It's Jaws, it's Jaws."
Yeah, you need to show more Jaws. Like that was a lot of people's criticisms for the original Godzilla was because he was barely in it. And now that he's totally in Godzilla vs. Kong, although he's in it more in this film than he is for probably a majority of the rest of the franchise. And what?
I will agree with you. He is definitely in it more than 2014's Godzilla.
Yeah. But what were you?
He is certainly in more of King of Monsters.
Oh, than in this film?
Yeah.
I would agree. That's fair. There are whole characters, there's whole storylines in this movie that could be cut out of the film.
Yep.
And the fact it sucks because I love those actors. I love that group of actors.
Yeah, I mean, everyone's great, and when they're in a scene, they're yucking it up.
There's too many fucking one-liners in this movie.
Oh man, it's one-liner central. It's like we need a scene to break up the monster stuff. Throw a human in there for a one-liner.
Yeah, let's. So I need to just let go the grounded part of this franchise. I need to come back to reality, where I can just turn off that part of my brain that's trying to make this film make sense. Because slowly over the course of this franchise, they hint at like tunnels throughout the Earth and how the Hollow Earth theory and how there's essentially no core or some fucking thing.
Yeah.
And that like the gravity is just some fucking thing you could do. You could travel from San Diego to Australia in 12 minutes or some shit.
It is definitely requires a lot of suspension of disbelief. Go ahead. No, you go
I was
ahead.
going to say it's a pulp film. This is essentially harkening back to the original the feeling of the original Gojira films and that universe, while throwing all of the special effects of present day at us in giant hordes, giant moments of destruction. I mean, when we get the final reveal of the monster that they're gonna fight, which also,
I mean, it's the worst fucking kept secret in history. You can fucking say who it is.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I mean, it's Mechagodzilla, and
people were in the fucking trailer they released. They're like, this little thing right here is Mechagodzilla. Yeah. Then somebody released the fucking image of the toy. Again, worst fucking kept secret in the history of ever.
We need to just get rid of that pretense when it comes to like trying to hide spoilers, especially when it comes to everyone spoiling movies throughout history, especially now with the internet being what it is. But basically, once Godzilla and King Kong fight and Kong loses, gets his ass handed to him, Godzilla starts walking away, and then I'm like, oh wait, I know exactly what's gonna happen. We've already been introduced to Mechagodzilla. He's gonna break out, and I basically telegraphed the rest of the film beat for beat. As it goes on. And I get it. You don't have to do that. You're not supposed to be thinking when you're watching this movie.
Well, and granted, everybody knew. Everybody knew that was going to happen.
The
I
team
think
up.
there was,
It's the
I,
team up.
I think there was some disagreement or like skepticism about whether or not you were going to be given a clear winner between Godzilla and Kong, and who was stronger than who.
The director said that there was going to be a clear winner.
Yeah, I would say there was between the two there was absolutely a clear winner. What he didn't say, or what he didn't deny, was that there was going to be a team up. If you go back and look at those interviews, and they're like, a lot of people are saying, we're not going to get a clear consensus on a winner, and they're going to, team up against a big bad that's introduced in the last half of Act 3 in super rushed fashion. But he all he commented on was that there was going to be a clear winner. So I will give him his due on that.
That's all you should give Adam Wingard.
Yeah, it was expert PR speak. And so he can technically say he was telling the truth because he didn't deny that what's going to happen.
Can we talk about Dr. Serizawa having a son, and that son being like, let's build a giant robot Godzilla?
Something to point out too, they just say his last name.
Yeah.
I don't even say whether or not he for sure is his son.
In universe, you have to be like, if you're going to turn your brain off for every other thing, it's got to be
definitely it's definitely the case.
Yeah.
But yeah. So my point on that was that there's so many just like hand wavy go with it things in this movie. Which again, you kind of got to know what you're signing up for, but it's a little egregious after a while, where you're just like, they're controlling Mechagodzilla via telepathy through one of the severed heads of
King
Ghidorah.
What? Why? How?
Whatever.
Just shut up.
There's a Godzilla species energy vault in the center of the earth that the Kong species controls.
Yeah. They used to build weapons. Yeah.
Now, I will say with that whole Kong thing, it was actually one of the few things I actually really liked about the movie. When he first walks into like this kind of throne room where they've been led to basically his species home.
Mm-hmm.
It's nonverbal. You're going off of all of Kong's kind of pantomiming. Granted, it lasts 2 minutes, so you don't really get it for a long period of time or anything like that. But that was actually really interesting. I like that. That was something I wasn't expecting with the movie.
Like him sitting on the throne and being like,
yeah, or like going over to the corpses and kind of examining everything, and like no human is talking up through the point until they do talk. But yeah, that was actually a really cool scene. I liked that a lot. What I didn't like was the movie will do this thing where it'll portray. So the humans are split up into 3 camps.
Yeah.
There's the Kong camp, which for the majority of the movie Kong camp is tagging along with Kong or kidnapping Kong to help them.
Same thing,
find the Hollow Earth. I
feel like they already have, though. Like, what stopped them?
So, again, this is kind of a hand wavy thing. I think they needed him because he's like attracted, kind of in the same vein that Godzilla is attracted to the sense of power that other Titans have.
Yeah,
Kong also kind of, it's almost like a magnetic force sort of thing. So they need him to lead them to where this power. The Kong camp has been enlisted by surprise, they're actually villain camp.
Shocking.
To find a power source that's strong enough to power Mechagodzilla. Because they kind of have him up and running, but he won't stay.
He needs one more AA battery.
Yeah, exactly. He needs a D battery.
Gotcha.
Frankly.
Oh yeah, the fatter battery.
Yes. So that's why they're trying to find it, but it's oh, God.
It doesn't. No, it's basically hand wave. You can hand wave something and just make sure that the logic is totally thrown out the window. But when you're doing it every other half second, it's hard. It's Journey to the Center of the Earth.
Well, and it's like it's hand wavy, and it's like we want to give you some context for why these people are doing the things they're doing.
Some context,
but no introspection with it, right? So initially, they enlist this brother, who is a Skarsgård.
Yeah, Alexander Skarsgård. He was recently in The Stand. Yeah. He was in True Blood. He's the most miscast actor in this movie.
His brother, who was also a scientist, they were part of this kind of theoretical team, I guess, in which they discovered the Hollow Earth. I think is what they're getting at. Yeah. This specific team discovered it, and in an attempt to venture to the Hollow Earth, Skarsgård's brother, not his actual brother, his character brother, dies via
he gets smushed.
Gravitational force.
He gets smushed. He's like, all right, we found out that the Earth is hollow. Let's go into this tunnel, and then just gets into a fucking DeLorean and fucking flies off and gets smushed.
Well, so he's enlisted by the villains to get to the Hollow Earth, and they're like, oh, well, you didn't have the right equipment last time. We're super rich and fancy, so we have the right equipment, this experimental tech, that'll get you there, no problem. The only issue is we need something to help us get down there, which is where Kong comes in. The Skarsgård character, I honestly can't remember his name. It's probably John or some shit.
The character's name?
Yeah.
Well, I can look it up, but it's not going to matter.
He enlists the help of the scientists from Skull Island. I forgot her name.
No, she's actually not in Skull Island.
Are you sure?
Rebecca Hall was not in Skull Island.
I thought she was.
Nope. His name was Nathan Lind. Alexander Skarsgård's
character. Are you sure?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
I'm sure she wasn't.
They kept kind of treating her like...
I watched the entire universe. She was not in it.
So he enlists her help, who I guess she is part of it's Monarch, right?
Yeah, she's still a part of Monarch. Yeah.
Who has been keeping Kong safe in a containment field because they're aware that Godzilla is trying to track him down.
Quick pause. How the fuck did they build that and contain him?
Don't think about it. Honestly, that's not even one of my concerns. They got a giant fucking dinosaur robot. They could build a fucking Star Wars base out in the middle of the ocean for all I give a fuck. My issue is they are treating these people kind of like they're are they heroes, but they're they have mixed motivations or something like that. They're actually good at heart, and they'll have these scenes where, so to get Kong to lead them to the power source in the Hollow Earth, they kind of lie to him.
Yeah.
In which the Rebecca Hall uses her basically adoptive daughter to lie to the giant monkey monster and say that his family is in the Hollow Earth, so lead them there.
Yeah.
And it's oh, that's a lie. They don't know that.
I mean, it's one of those white lies, and I'm not justifying lying. It's one of those white lies where they're we don't really know if there are more Kongs in there.
Right. That's fine. My problem is they get to the Hollow Earth. They were fucking right. Why? They had no fucking basis to assume that. They're just it's presented as we're tricking him to lead him down there, and just by coincidence and sheer fucking Matrix bullshit, it just happens to be the literal home base kingdom of fucking Kong's species.
If I was Kong, I would have been pissed. I would have blown up both of those ships. He almost kind of ignored them once he got in and he started swinging around and everything. But
yeah, so I mentioned the adopted daughter. There's a whole thing with her, communicating with him via sign language because she's deaf, and That's another thing that doesn't make sense to me. This like super genius scientist Rebecca Hall
Yeah.
Wouldn't for a second consider that a fucking monkey knows how to use sign language when
Yeah.
there's literal monkeys in the zoo
Yeah.
that will do sign language.
Yeah.
Fuck.
Well, I think it's because he never showed that he knew sign language. That's the only reason. She just,
I'm
again,
aware.
she
I would-
assumes. She assumes just like Kong does. Everyone here doesn't have a single ounce of logic in their brain.
Anyway, I think we're getting a little too into the weeds. Honestly, all the like nitpicky stuff and like hand wavy stuff wasn't even my like true gripe with the movie. Like the thing that kept going to me, like, oh my god, no, don't do this.
Yeah.
Because I think with just those, like it's still a 7 out of 10. Coming off having King of Monsters in my top 10 for 2019, in which you feel the love and admiration for warts and all for Godzilla, into this thing, which I think has about maybe 20-30 minutes of Godzilla in it.
Mm.
But it pretending that it's some sort of like it's another celebration of Godzilla, I guess.
Right.
Was really, really defeating. Because I dropped in super hype. I think this is one of the few times recently where I've been really hyped for a movie, and then gone in and come out like feeling I put too much hope into that one.
You got the wind knocked out of your sails, basically.
Yeah, I got the wind guard knocked out of me.
And fuck. Yeah, it's odd because I was really much of the same mind, and going into it, after having watched every other movie in the franchise, it slowly diminished over time. So
the movie diminished.
My hype for Godzilla vs. Kong diminished over time. Knowing that there were the glaring inconsistencies when it came to the character writing for the humans, the character motivations for the monsters themselves.
Or just Wingard's resume in general.
The director's resume in general.
Now, that being said, again, I mentioned it before, Doherty, writer for King of Monsters, still wrote for this movie.
Yeah.
I think ultimately, if you look at it, it does have the bare bones of something that, if you did it right, could be serviceable, or more serviceable than it actually is. It could actually be good, I think. It's the decisions outside of just the script. You know, there's issues, of course, with the humans, and that, like, the humans in Godzilla / monster movies are always a point of contention. There's two camps: either there's not enough or there's too much. You can never please either one of them. Personally, I think King of Monsters was a good split. That being said, again, very huge send up to Godzilla movies of old, or just the Toho movies in general, where the humans are very much a part of the story in general, but they actually have character to them other than, say, 2014's just military man trying to do what's right and his wife running through the city and abandoning their child.
Hey, I'm gonna put my kid on a bus. That bus is gonna go wherever the fuck, and I'm just gonna run through the streets with no goal in mind.
I should have known. I did have a bit of a bad feeling when the trailer dropped and they didn't have any sort of music or something that seemed to belie anything other than what was on the tin, right? Like, the movie's called Kong, or Godzilla vs. Kong.
Yeah.
This is what it's going to be in the trailer, Godzilla vs. Kong.
It's really not, it's not a great rule of thumb to judge an entire film based off of a trailer.
Well, especially because they have different teams, right? So I think that's why I kept looking at it like, well, I'm really hoping, I'm being optimistic here. I'm hoping that this is just kind of like your standard Hollywood machine practice, and where it's like, we're gonna rip everything out that wouldn't appeal to mass market and just kind of be like explosion, go boom.
Yeah.
What it actually turns out is the movie is explosion, go boom.
That's exactly what it's just we need to make sure there are as many opportunities as possible to get one monster fighting another monster.
And the thing is, honestly, the final battle is pretty good between. I mean, there's some good stuff with Godzilla and Kong and Hong Kong, I believe. Yeah, it's Hong Kong.
Yeah.
You get this like neon soaked look again from Madripoor.
Yeah.
And like there's some really interesting kind of choreography with that obviously you wouldn't be able to get in the older Toho movies because they're just two dudes in giant puppets or suits rather.
The jumping off of buildings and then like doing a fucking backwards kick or something. Yeah,
there's a callback to Kong like shoving a tree down Godzilla's throat and stuff like that. And I like that's neat to see, but it's very minimal. And the Mechagodzilla fight is pretty cool too. And it's Mechagodzilla. Let's see what he does. I think the design is fine. Honestly, I would have preferred kind of, and I know it's like, oh well, it's the first version of the Mechagodzilla, so it's going to be clunky, and obviously they're not going to have the tech that was in Final Wars that they use for that Kiryu and that shit. It
was also for toys. It was also for merchandising.
Well, quite frankly, I wouldn't want this toy. It's a fine design, but I think I would have rather them use the kind of same thing that they did with the original Kiryu design, which is playing it off the Millennium Godzilla, and like it's just kind of a mirror robot version of that. I would have loved to see a legendary Godzilla robot, like the kind of the same sort of architecture, but playing with the ridges and stuff like that. It'd be chonky boy, which I guess you can kind of argue this is like an alpha version of maybe what that would look like, but it's just kind of fine for me. I'm not in love with it, and yeah, that fight scene, it's fine, but then like the opening one, the boat one. I honestly tuned out for a lot of it. It was just like shit was happening on screen and my eyes were glossing over. Because at that point, like I don't really have a reason to care for anyone on those boats, other than the movie telling me to care. Like, and that's not real.
That was a big difference between Godzilla 2014 and this one too. Was in Godzilla 2014, Godzilla does that exact thing where he could potentially just swim through a boat and explode it, but because there was an important character on it, he swims under it. But in this movie, he's just doing whatever.
Yeah. To be fair, it's the opposite of that. He has no concern for whoever's on that boat
because he has to kill Kong for some reason.
And I mentioned the like the little nod to the Kong versus Godzilla old movie, within that fight scene, and this is kind of what I was getting at before, where it feels like the thought process behind some of these things was like, I'm going to make a second Kong movie and then put in as little effort to any sort of Godzilla reference as possible. To the point where probably the most demoralizing part for me, honestly, was the score. Just wow, what a fucking wet blanket compared to Bear Creary's
previous theme.
But it's not him. They have Junkie XL for this one.
Tom Hulkenborg. Who just recently did the Snyder Cut Justice League.
Yes, he did Fury Road too. Yeah. So that was great. The issue here is the whole fucking score is bum 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 bum, kind of like
it's the original theme.
No, it is not. It is the intro. It's the intro to the original scene, and then you get the worst case of blue balls ever because it never fucking finishes.
Yeah,
it just does that over and over again, like the Wonder Woman thing you were talking about.
Yeah,
bum, 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 bum,
Like that's
bum.
like that. Like
There's a
the
whole
it's supposed to be a
after.
callback to the original theme to give you like a sense of scale or like, oh, this is a big epic moment that's about to happen, and it never really does that with the King of Monsters. We kept getting like tweaks and new
Yes,
versions of that original theme.
I mean they have the whole original thing. There's a whole thing after that. Dun-dun-dun, dun-dun-dun,
Yeah,
dun-dun-dun. I don't want to get copyright struck or anything like
yeah, you won't get a copyright strike. Don't worry about it.
that. But it's like an actual fucking song, and I
Yeah,
know this is coming off as like, oh, the Godzilla nerd is talking again.
but
But it's
when you have bad music take you out of the film, it's like that's supposed to be part of the film.
and here's the thing. I don't think it's like utter trash. It's just me coming from a point of like, you're literally anytime Godzilla is on screen, you do the bum bum bum, and then like two or three bars, and then bum 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 bum. Like that's the whole fucking thing.
Yeah,
And I'm sure if I like wasn't connected to it at all, I could be like, oh yeah, well I see what he's doing here and doing, like, and like it's serviceable any other time. Like it's just like a normal film score. I feel like any other time that Godzilla isn't on screen, but whenever he is, it's just that over and over and over again. And I'm like, you had like the McCreary or the Creary soundtrack for King of Monsters, um, is like one of my so after I watched Godzilla versus Kong, I went back and watched King of Monsters because I needed something to make me happy, quite frankly. And then after that, I was listening to the fucking soundtrack all week because it is so
it
fucking
slaps.
solid.
It slaps.
It is fan fucking tastic in terms of using the base, like the building blocks of what came before, whether it be Godzilla's theme, Mothra's theme, anything, and then building off of that into something new and like different, but still encompassing that those building blocks again as a love letter to what it represents. It was fucking amazing. It's still one of my favorite soundtracks. So to go from that to this, which honestly feels like
a slap in the face.
It feels like I read the Spark Notes version of it, right? Yeah. Like Junkie XL it feels like he's never seen a Godzilla movie. I don't know if that's true. That's just what it feels like. And that goes doubly for Adam Wingard. Doesn't feel like he knows anything about the fucking Godzilla verse or whatever, the Toho Godzilla, whether it be Showa or Heisei or anything, it to the point where like they will do these things. Like I said, they'll call back, but it feels empty. It's like bare minimum of like, I read the synopsis, here's what it is, or like I did a wiki dive or something, and like these are the things I picked out to make it seem like I know what I'm talking about. There's even a scene in Hong Kong. So Kong is in the Hollow Earth. Godzilla is on land in Hong Kong, and he senses when Godzilla has reached this kind of like center point of energy. So to get to him, he shoots his beam down into the earth. And I swear to Christ, it looks almost exactly like Shin Godzilla, the scene where he just like fucking devastates Japan. Like it's upsetting. It's because you see that thing and you're like, I know that, but it sounds so gatekeepy, right? To be like, you're not doing that correctly, or you're not giving it the reverence it needs. But if your whole fucking movie is look at the thing you love, come look at the thing you love, and instead what you're doing is like showing faux optimism it feels like marketing. It's just such a turnoff, man. And like that's what the whole movie felt like for me, from start to finish. It was just even the way Mechagodzilla is controlled. They're using the Ghidorah head, so there's like the whole telepathy kind of thing of Final Wars in there, with Kiryu.
Like they try to explain it by saying that the only way they could communicate each of the three heads is through telepathy because they were so far apart.
But they have the pilot in there as kind of a stand-in mind for it, so it's like a conduit.
Pacific Rim, cough, cough.
Yeah. I mean, it is Pacific Rim, pretty much, which is pretty much Final Wars. So
Yeah.
it's all connected.
They all cannibalize each other.
And it's just frankly it's sad. It's sad to me. And again, I know like I said, I started off with a caveat to this because I want to make it clear it is a fine movie. I think, to me, fine movie. If you go in knowing what you're getting, it's really dumb. It's a dumb movie in which a giant fucking ancient lizard fights an ancient monkey, and then they both fight a terrestrial brain dragon that's in a robot. It's fucking dumb. Godzilla's dumb, though. So when you're trying to incorporate all those things that people care about, it's really sad to see it not used to its full potential.
I think this film is, and along with King of Monsters, and this whole franchise, really, this new MonsterVerse, was really supposed to kind of be a reboot, but also kind of a look back at this franchise. It's got over 60 years of history, and while it can make references all that at once, it needs to be able to put this franchise on the pedestal and recognize it for what it is, because you can't just put Godzilla on a poster. I mean, okay, here's what's actually fucking happening is you're putting Godzilla and King Kong on a poster, putting verses in the middle and saying, hopefully you'll go see that because you hopefully know who Godzilla and or King Kong is. And most people do.
Well, and to their credit, they did build a universe, as it were, in which it's one of its title stars only has one other movie, which is why I think this feels like they smushed a Skull Island 2 in here, quite frankly.
It's a King Kong film more than it is a Godzilla film.
It is. And there's stuff I like had so high hopes for, even like the dumb little stuff. Like there's a point where they're talking about they can't carry Kong on a aircraft carrier anymore because Godzilla's always in the water and he's always going to sense him immediately, no matter what, when they start moving. Oh, can we fly him? So like they have this suggestion, and in my head I'm like, oh, thank God they're doing the stupid shit where they're attaching balloons to King Kong and flying him up a fucking mountain.
Like
I can't
the original film. Yeah.
No, they're just carrying him with some helicopters.
Why didn't they do that in the first place?
Hand wave, another hand wave. Just don't worry about it.
It just didn't live up to the potential that we, or at least the hype that we had for this film.
Quite frankly, maybe that's in the emphasis I'm putting on it. Maybe that's my fault. Like obviously it's not just called Godzilla. It's Godzilla versus Kong. That being said, Godzilla is the first name of the title, so you would think he would be the marquee character here, but whatever. Yeah, I don't know. I was just really I was kind of bummed about it because it's, again, a movie when you look on the surface is totally fine, exactly what you expect, nothing super crazy to write home about, and you get a good. The humans are basically in there for comedic effect, and they do a really good job with that in terms of there's good laughs in there because it's all one line, so it's just all feeding off the situation. But when you attach that sort of expectation and maybe unfortunate connection to the previous movie, which was, in my opinion, miles and miles ahead. Obviously, if you look anywhere on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, any social, you're going to see varying. There's a lot of people I've seen that think this is extremely way better than King of Monsters, and they hated King of Monsters. Which is fine, like we're a world full of individual people who all have individual opinions. But for me, no, that's not true.
I don't understand how anybody could watch a movie, even with the title being the marquee for a fucking boxing match, why they wouldn't want to be invested in an actual story that makes sense from start to finish.
Because you're signing up for a movie for two monsters beating the shit out of each other.
Right, but that worked for Godzilla King of Monsters. Like the
Why
reason
do
why
people go see Fast and the Furious, Nick? Why do you watch that?
for the story.
For family?
For family.
For me familia.
For me familia. Corona, cars, me familia. No, honestly, at this point, for Fast and Furious, I actually do watch it for the story and the characters, the dynamic between those characters. But that's
better than I would.
But that's also because you can write dialogue for humans. You can't really do that for a giant lizard and a giant monkey.
Here's the thing with the Fast and the Furious movies too, not counting the spin-off movie that they already did. There are 8 of those in which you have enough time to build up a string of characters in which you can attach
backstories and all of that,
to the point where it's basically a Marvel franchise, right? Like you have all these characters in there where they have their differing origins and stories and connections, and when someone pops up on screen, you go, "Woo, I know that person."
Zach, how many Fast and Furious movies have you watched?
I stopped at Tokyo Drift, sir. The best, or no, not Tokyo. Yeah, Tokyo Drift, the best of the franchise. It could not go anywhere but down from there. Why would I sign up for more of that?
Audience, I'm so sorry. I will actually get him educated on Fast and Furious before Fast 9. I promise you. The reveal of Han being alive, I don't think you understand how important that is.
I mean,
Zach, having stopped the franchise at Fast and Furious Tokyo Drift, I don't know why you wouldn't be more enticed to see Fast 9 with Han coming back. Because you don't.
Because I imagine it probably needs some more contextualization.
No. Because if you had watched the other movies, you would realize that he was always alive. Tokyo Drift takes place after Fast 6.
God, this franchise is dumb.
It's not dumb. You just have to move one movie over.
Some Star Wars bullshit here.
What? How? They number those fucking things, just like the Fast movies.
They number the Fast movies. Doesn't mean there's like...
Actually, technically, they don't start numbering them until 5, so...
Technically, they numbered Too Fast, Too Furious twice.
But you could also... Fuck! I hate this franchise. Because Hobbs and Shaw, when does that take place? Honestly. Anyway, I think it's after 8. No, it's after 7. Doesn't matter. Are you done? Are you done with your Godzilla soapbox?
Yeah. I'll step off here. I'm sorry for anyone I've angered. Any Godzilla. See, I keep wanting to call it Kong versus Godzilla too.
Yeah.
I do it all the time. I always have to mentally correct myself.
Just flip it. Yeah. Gnock.
Yeah.
Versus.
Yeah. Sorry for the GVK stands out there. It was not my cup of tea, as it were.
It wasn't mine either. I much prefer... Okay, so let me just do that. We'll do that ranking now. I'll ask for yours, but I'll do mine first. So if I had to rank them when it comes to watchability, like whether I want to watch them again because I enjoy them from start to finish, I would go King of Monsters, Skull Island, Godzilla 2014, GVK.
Yeah, I absolutely agree. That was the exact order I would do it.
It's not hard. It's not hard.
Now you might put Godzilla 2014 over Skull Island.
It's very close.
I think ultimately that is a more complete movie. That I actually like the human characters there, regardless of whatever Gareth Edwards was trying to do with Military Man and Mom.
Yeah. You mean brother and sister?
Yes.
I mean, it came out when did it?
It was before
Age of Ultron, but like everyone knew at that point because they had been cast for Age of Ultron. That's funny. We don't really have anything else to add for that. We could talk about what I watched, but I guess fuck that. We're already over.
Fuck it. What did you watch?
I've watched another episode of Invincible. I watched Invincible episode 4. If you're not already invested in Invincible, or you've already read the comics because you're like, I read the graphic novels, comics, whatever you want to call them. I don't want to watch the show. I already know the story. There are some subtle differences to the show that they're introducing that could drastically change where the show goes. So it's much like Robert Kirkman's Walking Dead and the TV show it's based on. So, kind of get
Kirkman
more.
Is the author for the Invincible comic.
Yes.
As well.
Sorry, I should have tied those two together. However, the animation is not great. It's not getting better. They're
Amazon animation.
Amazon animation. They very much are using, or they hired people from the DC animation studio. Like they maybe poached some Warner Brothers animators, and they're using them. But yeah, oh, whoa, no, I just meant like they keep them in a room somewhere.
Oh, you mean you hired them?
Yeah,
oh, okay.
Not actually poach them. Sorry, headhunted. Oh, that's not better. And it's just not getting better. Like I feel like there are certain scenes where they focus on there are certain scenes in each episode that they focus their animation on, and then for the rest of the episode where it's just two characters talking, they don't really have to. And I feel like they're kind of slacking on that part. But the story, the characters, the worlds, I'm very interested. I'm very invested in. I'm very intrigued as to where it goes. Some people are saying that there are at least, like, even with the fast pace of which the show is going, and because of how long the episodes are, they're 45 minutes each. That there's easily like 6 to 7 seasons worth of show, and I'm like, wow, that's a long graphic novel. But I think they're honestly probably projecting too high, or they want 7 seasons as opposed to.
I mean, hey, if the team gets it, that's fantastic for them. But I mean, people talk about Netflix projects being canceled after 3 seasons. You talk about Amazon shows being canceled after 1 or 2.
Yeah. Well, to be fair, they also don't have the market share. Imagine Amazon's projects getting the amount of views that Netflix projects are getting.
Yeah, it's so weird, man. Like, not to go on a little bit of a tangent here, but there's so much television on Prime that always gets really well received critically. Nobody watches it.
I think and that's honestly what I'm trying to do. Is I'm trying to highlight some of the shows that I've been watching, because I've been trying to branch out, because every time I'm on Netflix, for some reason Netflix, as opposed to any other streaming service, I don't know what I want to watch, because there's always way too much to watch.
Yeah.
Whereas on Disney Plus, HBO Max, Amazon Prime, there's always like specific things that I want to watch because they have such a smaller library.
Right.
Or they focus on specific franchises like Disney or HBO. And honestly, like, there are some really great sci-fi shows on Amazon Prime that people are missing out on. I actually want to talk about one right now that came out April 1st. So a few days ago. Called Made for Love, based off of a book.
Yes. Okay. Yeah.
Starring Christina Milioti and Billy Magnuson. And boy, Christina Milioti is having some sci-fi trouble in yet another TV show. It's another dark sci-fi comedy show. I have only watched the first episode, but I got the gist of where it's going to be going. Not to say that that's a bad thing, but you can get the gist from the trailer. And it's on... Why did I just blank on it? It's on HBO Max. It's not on Amazon. I don't know why I said that.
Oh, whoops.
Whoops.
A conversation in which you're like, let me highlight some Amazon shows, because nobody watches them.
I'll bring some
HBO show, which always gets people watching.
I'll bring some in, because I'm pretty sure that I'd mentioned Undone, which is on Amazon Prime. I don't think I did mention it in one of our previous episodes, but it was a very cel-shaded animated show starring from Battle Angel Alita. Rosa Salazar. And also had Mr. Nobody, who I'm also blanking. I'm already blanking on characters' names. Rosa Salazar and Bob Odenkirk. And it's got like that animation style of... what is that movie with like...
Scanner Darkly.
Scanner Darkly, thank you. And it's very much about this woman's perception of reality and how her dead father is showing up in her dreams, and also like how she can change time and stuff. It's very interesting. There's also shows like... All right, listen. I can't remember a lot of the names of shows on Amazon Prime.
Well, you got Man in the High Castle, which has been over for years at this point.
But hearing good things from that show. I started it. I didn't finish it, but I heard good things. I mean, if you got Amazon Prime, you might as well download Amazon Prime Video, right?
Well, yeah, that's not the issue. I think most people have Amazon at this point. Which is why it's so weird because they already have an install base.
Yeah.
Everyone who has a Prime membership gets the Prime Video.
I think it's because they just don't
fucking use it.
I think it's also because they just don't market it. Like they market it somewhat. They market it
It
in
on their website on Amazon.
And I guess they do in movie theaters. I don't know. Maybe I'm just talking out of my ass a lot today.
Maybe what the answer actually is nobody gives a shit.
Nobody gives a shit. So the show I watched on HBO Max today, Made for Love, stars Christina Milioti and Billy Madison, like I said before, and is all about this billionaire who decides to trick his wife into... Like, he puts a chip in his wife's brain when she's unconscious, and now he can see everything that she does. Like, they're connected telepathically. And it was, like, it's a whole, like, app thing that he's trying to... very Black Mirror-esque thing that he's like, trying to...
Kind of Stepford Wives sort of extension.
Yeah, kind of. Like, they can perceive different realities together if they wanted to. Like, it's like playing a two-player game in alternate reality. And it's supposed to be marketed towards couples and stuff, and it's called Made for Love, and it's just a very cool little dark comedy sci-fi show that has an interesting release schedule. I actually want to point this out. They release, it's supposed to be eight episodes long, but they release the first 3 episodes April 1st. They'll release the next 2 episodes April 8th, and then the final 3 episodes on April 15th.
It's
odd.
Yeah.
I thought that was
strategy in
that. There's got to be a strategy in that, because you have to think that there's, like, how does the social media side of that work? Like, how do you market multiple episodes at once while also delaying, like, releases like that? I feel like it's not the first show to do this.
Are the episodes 30 minutes?
They're 30 minutes, yes.
So it could be, this is just spitballing here, and it's probably wrong because I feel like this sort of decision was made well in advance to any sort of thing that would happen with Falcon and the Winter Soldier. But considering the praise that Winter Soldier is getting for an hour-long time, I wonder if we're seeing that translate to other shows that are... Like, I wonder what the retention rate for people who are watching hour-long shows are now at the moment, especially, like, as COVID has gone on.
Yeah.
Versus 30-minute shows where you don't have enough time to settle in. I wonder if that's kind of why they're doubling up. But it, like, technically, because they're 2 separate episodes, it still allows the viewer to choose whether or not they want to be like, no, I'll just watch this one this week and then say the next one for next week.
That's also, yeah, like, that's the question I've been trying to ask myself, is what is the strategy behind what they think their audience's retention rate is? It also depends show to show and how engaging that show is. Like, if they did the exact same thing, like you said, with Falcon and Winter Soldier, there would be different discussions being made over the course of the release.
Right. Well, and obviously, ultimately, they're just 2 very different shows. Your retention rate for a thriller that has a central mystery going on through all the episodes is going to be a different retention rate compared to your dark comedy.
Yeah. But anyway, if you liked Palm Springs and you like the wife from How I Met Your Mother, she's great. I love her as an actress. She's really great. But I'll have to keep watching, and I'll let you guys know what I think about it next week. I can't remember.
To look forward to.
Well, I mean, I really enjoyed the first episode, and I watched it like literally 2 hours ago. So it's right there in the front of my mind. But then we started talking about Godzilla vs. Kong, and now I'm just angry and I want to punch.
You should have expected it.
And now I just want to punch a monkey.
If the Godzilla thing drops and we have a podcast episode, I will talk incessantly about Godzilla. You can't stop me.
It was literally like 75% of this podcast runtime.
Absolutely. That's what you get.
I had so little time to talk about the things I wanted to talk about, and then I just forgot about them. And then I had to look them up, and then I had to type them in because I forgot the actresses involved and the actors. And now I feel like I screwed up Amazon, and now I feel bad. I'm sorry, Jeff Bezos. Please don't kill me.
Amazon fails. Nick, giant lizard. What the fuck? I literally had giant lizard in my middle name. Fuck. Simmons.
Yeah. Yeah, he shortened it, but I appreciate the effort there.
Considering it was an hour and a half ago, I think I did pretty solid.
That's fair. Zach, if people wanted to contact us and ask us all of their questions about our opinions on all the other type of monster movies out there, all the other franchises that they love, that they want to get our opinions on, how would they contact us?
You can contact us at Kaiju Fanatic at lightscameranonsense.com.
Okay, how do you spell Kaiju Fanatic? This is not for me. It's not for me. It's for them. KAIJUFANATIC. Boom. Ask me to spell in the middle of a podcast. Fuck you. I was doing it for the audio listeners, you son of a bitch. Because not a lot of people know how to spell kaiju.
They should.
No, there's going to be a lot of like misspelled, very inappropriate spellings of that, and we're I don't want to get that. I don't want to get that email. I don't want to read that email. So if you'd like to hear your questions read aloud on the show, just head over to Kaiju Fanatic at lightscameranonsense.com. I love that you just love this. This is you. But this has been another episode of Lights Camera Nonsense, keeping you updated despite our best efforts. Make sure to tune in every week for all the latest news, reviews, and what else, Zach?
How do you do?
I'm so sorry about all this fucking Godzilla vs. Kong bullshit. We didn't even talk about Space Jam, Zach.
We don't do news anymore.
We don't do news, but we both watched the Space Jam trailer, didn't we? Did you watch it?
Did? Yeah, we did.
Yeah, and it's just Ready Player One all over again? You ready for Joker and Pennywise to be on the enemy team and like fight LeBron James and Tweety Bird?
I think the real news is that Yosemite Sam has his guns again.
That's right, as he should. Wait, that's a different argument. That's a whole can of worms. I don't like this. Thanks for tuning in. We will see you next time.
Bye.